Welcome to my channel, SynTech Gaming. If you find this video helpful, help me out by liking the video, dropping a comment below, subscribing to my channel, or follow me where I do my video game streaming at facebook.com/SynTech Gaming. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Astro C40 TR Controller and some of the hidden features about the controller that most people don't know about. There's a couple of features about the controller that I do want to talk about first that I feel like you should know as an owner of the Astro C40 TR. One of those features is how you can program buttons using only the controller. So if you don't know, the button right there is the program button. If you press and hold that button, the light will flash on the controller and it will rumble and you enter programming mode. If I hit the under right button, the button that I want to program, and then I can hit the button that I want it to be, the light will flash, it will rumble again, and it has then been programmed as that button. The other thing that I wanted to talk about that you should know as an owner, the little tiny hole underneath the programming button is to reset the controller. You will need a paper clip or something similar as small that you can press in there and press that button. I think you have to hold it for 10 or 20 seconds and then release. The light will flash and it will reset the controller back to its default settings. So those are two things that I want you to know about going into this video. Alright, so let's get into the 5 things that most people don't know about the Astro C40 TR controller. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the USB wireless transmitter. There's 2 things about this transmitter that I wanted to talk about that I'm going to bundle into the one thing. One is that the light on the transmitter is actually a button. It can be pressed in, and that is how you sync your controller back to the wireless transmitter. So to sync your controller, you will push and hold the options and share button. When you do that, the light will flash on the controller. When the light is flashing on your controller, you will push and hold that LED button on the transmitter that's plugged into either your PlayStation or computer. The light will flash on it as well, and then they will sync up to each other. The other feature about the USB wireless transmitter that I think most people won't know, when you plug that USB wireless transmitter into your computer and you have the Astro C40 TR program up, you can actually update the firmware that is on that USB transmitter, and you can separately update the firmware on your controller, and you should do both those things. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to tell you about is that there is a way to shut the controller off. If you press and hold the PlayStation button, and I want to say it's for about 7 seconds, the light will flash a single time, very quickly, orange, and it actually shuts the controller off. Okay, so the third thing that I want to talk about is how to fix analog drift. So if you're playing a game and you're not touching your analog sticks and your character's looking some certain way on his own, or he's running or walking forward or backwards, there is a way to correct that with this controller. So I have it set up right now where my right analog stick is showing drift downwards. You can see that on the program, because on the right hand analog stick, no matter what I do, when I release the analog stick, it continues to say with that red line that it is pointing downwards. So that program button that we were talking about, If you will push and hold that program button for the 5 seconds to enter programming mode, the light will flash, the controller will do its rumble, and then you push and hold it again for 5 seconds and exit the programming mode without touching any buttons. It recenters and recalibrates those analog sticks. So now you can see that no matter what I do, it recenters the red and white circle to the center of the analog stick, and that has corrected the analog drift that I had programmed into the controller. Okay, so the fourth thing that I want to talk about is how you can potentially program your L2 and R2 trigger buttons to the under buttons on the controller. Now there's two parts to this that have to be able to happen. The critical part of this that has to happen in order for this to work at all is the game has to allow you to swap your L1, L2, R1, L2 buttons. Most shooters have this feature in the settings, so we will flip those. The other thing that you have to do, and you can do it either with the programming button on the bottom of the controller. I'm going to use the computer program so that you have a visual representation of what I'm doing. So under button left, I'm going to program to L1, and under button right, I'm going to program to R1, and I'm going to save that to the controller. Flip back over to our PlayStation, and we have now set L1 to aim, which is our under button on the left side, and the under button on the right side to being able to fire the gun. So our under button on the left side aims, and our under button on the right side shoots. So that's how you can potentially set those under buttons up to be your aim and shoot buttons, as long as the game supports flipping the L1, R1. They may change this in a patch for the firmware in the future where you can just directly program L2 and R2 to the under buttons. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't. The last thing that I want to talk about is how you can program a button on the controller to not do anything. Now, I've seen Astro actually say the only buttons you can do that with are the under buttons, but that's not true. So this one's going to be a little bit more interesting, and you have to do it a very particular way. So I'm going to show you something first in the PC app. The X button, there's no way to program it to under button left or under button right. Let's program our under button left to circle and our under button right to X, because that's probably the most common settings. Okay, so we've got our under buttons programmed. Under button right is jump, under button left is crouch or go prone. Now, if you enter programming mode, press your X button to program X, and then push your under button right. It now programs X to be under button right. Now under button right is programmed to be jump. But now your X button doesn't do anything. So you can disable your buttons by programming them to the under buttons. Now let's go ahead and set up circle that way. I'll do circle and under button right. Now my circle will not have me go prone, but my under button will. Triangle to switch guns. Sure. Let's program it where it won't do anything, just for giggles. Triangle program, under button selection. Now I can't swap my guns. Like I said earlier, Astro has said that the only buttons you're supposed to be able to program to nothing are the under buttons, so they may fix this in an upcoming patch. So I have been asked that question a lot of times though, is I want to program my X and O buttons to the under buttons on the controller, but I don't want to accidentally hit X and O on the faceplate. Is there any way to disable them? And that's how you can do that. So I can no longer switch my guns, crouch, or jump. However, I can jump and crouch. Now to unprogram that, you can simply push the program button and then hit the same button 2 times in a row, and it will now default it back to what it was before. And that way you don't have to reset your controller or go into programming. Now to show you that it is working, we're going to plug it back in and go back over to our program, and you can now see in our program that we have X and O programmed to under left and under right. It will actually show it in the program, but it will not allow you to program it that way in the program. So the only way you can do that is by using that program button on the bottom of the controller. So there you have it. Maybe 5, maybe even 6 things that you didn't know that you could do with your Astro C40 TR controller. Hopefully this video helps you out and gets this controller programmed the way that you want it to be programmed so that you can use it the way that you want. If you found this video helpful, help me out by subscribing to my channel, liking the video, or dropping a comment below. If you have something else about this controller that you have found out that I didn't talk about in this video, let me know in the comments below as well so that I might be able to address it in a future video.